This is Talk the Home of Common Sense. 11:35 is the time. I'm Julia Hartley-Brewer. Henry Hill's still with me from Conservative Home. I wonder what he's got to make of what Reform UK's Deputy Leader, Richard Tice, has to say right now. Good morning to you, Richard.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. Well, it was certainly an exciting day yesterday. A little bit of a miserable day for people who, go out to work. We've been talking an awful lot about this. Is a budget for Benefit Street, taking money from workers, giving it to shirkers, taking it from strivers and giving it to skivers. Is that how you see it?
Basically, yes. And how can that be described as exciting? That was a nightmare day yesterday, frankly. I mean, all of the data was bad. Nobody's focusing enough on the dramatic declines in the growth forecasts from the Office for Budget Responsibility. I don't see how they're going to get to 1.5% growth in this current financial year, given the fact that we've got almost zero so far. And then all of the numbers thereafter have been downgraded. The jobs numbers are absolutely dire. Recruitment agents tell me that businesses have essentially frozen hiring, tragically, particularly of young people. But here's the really key point, Julia, that no one's focusing enough on. The borrowing numbers are through the roof. An extra £21 billion in this financial year alone, more than the OBR forecast back in the spring.
Yeah.
And the same next year and the year after. In 4 years, the borrowing's going to be over 60 billion more. And so you've got all the extra spending and the extra borrowing in the short term, and most of the tax rises come in the back of the parliamentary term. That is a cash flow disaster waiting to happen, almost guaranteeing a whole load more tax rises this time next year under a different chancellor.
Well, I don't think many people are expecting her to get to deliver third budget. Praise be God. It's a very unusual political move as well, isn't it? Although we've had, promised that from the Labour manifesto there wouldn't be any tax rises on working people. There clearly have been, both last year because of the national insurance rise, which does impact working people. I don't know why they thought it didn't, but also promised not to do it again this year. And then we have this clear tax rise with the tax thresholds going up. She made it very clear it was her choice. She kept saying my choice. The Office of Budget Responsibility making it very clear that this was not forced on her by circumstances. This was her choice to do this. And yet, you're saying, look, borrowing's up, that's bad. But the markets seem to be quite relaxed about it. You'd have thought the markets would have gone, hold on a minute, this is all terrible. The numbers don't add up. We're going to be charging more for British debt. Actually, on the contrary, the price of our debt went down.
Well, just wait. You never know quite what triggers it. But as the monthly data continues to get worse, and I think sometimes the markets, they place over-reliance in the OBR. I sometimes call them the Office for Incompetent Forecasting, given the wide variations. But just you watch these borrowing numbers over the next few months, and if they keep exceeding the OBR forecasts, and if the growth does not meet those forecasts, you are going to see a painful double whammy. And when the markets turn, it gets very painful very quickly when they get what's called herd instinct.
Yeah, well, it was very interesting when we saw Rachel Reeves sort of hitting back about Liz Truss. You just think, have you seen the borrowing figures compared to when Liz Truss was in charge yesterday? In terms of what was, I suppose, the worst stuff that you heard from the Chancellor yesterday, what really sort of stuck in your craw?
Well, the bottom line is that it pays to stay at home. Benefit payments are up, and those who set their alarm at 5 or 6 in the morning, they're all being penalised. Real disposable income per household is down every single year. Real disposable income is now no higher than it was in 2008. We've had essentially 20 years of actually negative disposable income. That's why working people feel poorer.
Yeah.
And if you keep raising benefits that, of course, are tax-free, and you keep freezing income tax thresholds on those who do work, you've got a desperate double whammy where essentially it no longer pays to go to work, and that's what we're seeing. So it's a budget for Benefit Street, but as in terms of growth, making work pay, making risk-taking, being an entrepreneur, a small business owner pay, frankly, many people are not going to bother, and many people are saying, I'm off to the golf course or I'm fleeing the country.
Well, and that's one of the biggest worries. And we know, 250,000 people last year did leave the country. And we've also got the latest migration figures suggesting an awful lot of people come to the country. It's going down. And the figures are, there's quite a whole range of figures. But net migration to the UK has dropped by 2/3. It's the lowest figure in 4 years, we're told. It's still, of course, absolutely sky high, with an estimated 204,000 more people coming to the country than leaving the country in the 12 months to June. Now, a lot of this actually is not down to what has happened since the Labour Party got in July 24. It's down to what Rishi Sunak did when it was exposed. We'd had the Boris wave. But what do you make of those figures? Are they at least going in the right direction?
I tell you what I'm making. I'm claiming credit for them, and Reform UK is claiming credit because we made such a song and dance 12 to 24 months ago that actually the Tories changed tack and essentially made some, completely reverse their previous uncontrolled open borders process. That was purely because of the pressure from Reform UK. So look, the numbers are in the right direction. They've got a long way further to go, but don't be deceived. In addition to those numbers, I think there's another 110,000 asylum claims from all sorts of people, whether they've come here on a boat or come here with a student visa and then claimed asylum. So the numbers are still way, way too high. And the last thing we need is more people in this country. We've got to get our own people back into work.
Well, that's the thing, actually. Predictions from the Office of Budget Responsibility yesterday, whether we're actually going to see rising net migration to 340,000 by the end of the decade. But actually, an awful lot of the fall isn't a fall in the number of people coming, it's a rise in the number of people leaving. And unfortunately, a lot of the people who are coming are low-skilled, low-wage migrants from, let's face it, the third world. And a lot of the people who are leaving are people, entrepreneurs, people who are entrepreneurial and aspirational and high earners who are fleeing higher taxes. So the one in, one out, it doesn't work for us economically, does it?
Well, that's why we say that no overseas nationals should be paid any benefits whatsoever, because if we're told that people need to come here to work to fill the jobs, well, the clue's in the name work. Either work or in the nicest possible way. It doesn't help us as an economy. It doesn't help us as a nation. So we want high-skilled, highly qualified people who speak the language, who integrate into the communities in numbers we can absorb, and then everyone's a winner. Otherwise, this thing doesn't work. And that's before, by the way, the impact of AI in terms of the quantity of, for example, white-collar jobs. We'll get through it, but it is a significant shift it's another whole industrial revolution. And the last thing we need is more people. We've got to get our own people back into work and make sure that we can keep people in work using AI.
But we're told we do need more people. What we specifically need is more working age people, particularly more children, to become the next working age generation to fund all of us when we are in our retirement. Because as we know, we don't have a pot for most of us that just sits there all, in the treasury in the corner. Oh, that's the one for Richard and that's the one for Julia. It's actually money that's being spent day to day. So we need to have more children. In which case, do you not support measures in the budget? I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this, Richard, but measures in the budget which are encouraging people to have more children by paying, for instance, an extra £3,500 a year to parents on universal credit who can't afford their kids to look after the kids they do have if they have got more than two.
Well, the key is in the word work. And so we want more British-born children who are part, essentially, of working where you've got two working families, but on low incomes, and many people are working, doing critical jobs to the economy, but on low incomes. They shouldn't be denied the ability to have children. So that's why we've said have a targeted focus on low-income working parents, where you've got two parents at work. That's what we want to do.
Two parents working full-time?
Yeah, that sort of thing, and you can look at
not that sort of thing. Either two parents working full-time or two parents work... I mean, it's not a mystery why people who work part-time or one of two people work part-time, they can't pay their bills, is it? While everyone else is striving, doing a 40-hour week.
The key clue is in the word work and the incentive to work, and people who want to contribute to their community by working and to our economy by working. That's where we're at on that. But overall, if you don't make work pay and you don't make entrepreneurs if you don't give them a reward for taking the risk, then we're not going to get any GDP growth, and we're heading towards a major drama.
I'm interested in Nigel Farage offering to pay the legal fees for the 80 farmers who were arrested yesterday, that protest outside Parliament. Well, they were banned from being outside Parliament with tractors. A number of tractors and farm vehicles were brought to the capital in breach of that order, which came very late in the day. Why is Nigel Farage offering that?
Because it was absolutely disgraceful, the treatment of the farmers. They'd been told for weeks that they could have a lawful, peaceful protest. The last time they came to London, they left the streets cleaner than they found them in the morning. And the reality is that because the farmers didn't want to fly pro-Palestine flags on their tractors, they weren't allowed, because it might be a bit embarrassing for the Chancellor and the Prime Minister. And one chap was arrested for blowing the horn of his tractor. I mean, for heaven's sake, what's going on? So we've said, and we will be helping a number of those arrested with their legal fees. We just think it's wrong. It was a political decision by the senior management of the Met Police for all the obvious reasons.
Is it two-tier policing?
It's two-tier policing, it's two-tier justice, and we're going to make sure that those farmers can get all the legal assistance that they require.
Can I also ask you one final question just about the more than 53,000 illegal migrants who are missing? The leaked document headed Absconder Pool from the Home Office was released last night, showing they've got 53,000 illegal migrants, some of whom are actually foreign offenders being released from prison, supposed to be in detention, supposed to have been deported. Just they're here in Britain. Don't know where they are. We don't know what they're doing. What do you make?
Well, we do know what they're doing, actually. We do know what they're doing. They're on every high street. They're working illegally, whether it's in barber shops, vape shops, mini-marts, car washes, you name it, they're there. In plain sight, the degree of criminality and money laundering. I first broke it as a presenter on Talk about 3 years ago.
Yes.
And I got a whole load of abuse for it. But, I mean, the switchboard lit up. And people were saying, I've suddenly got a dozen barbers on a small high street in a market town. And I know COVID was dramatic, but it didn't make our hair grow faster.
Thank you very much, Richard Tice, Deputy Leader of Reform UK. Henry Hill from Conservative Home listening to that. Very full-throated response to the budget there. What do you make of it?
I think one of the interesting things actually about the difference between Reform UK and the Conservatives, which we might see starting to play out over the next few years, is that if you look at the seats where they're competitive, Reform came second in 98 seats at the general election. 89% of them are Labour held. Some of the seats with the highest levels of government spending in the country are held by Reform UK. So for Kemi Badenoch, there's a fairly easy conventional Tory line about smaller state, lower taxes. For Nigel Farage and Reform UK, that's going to be a slightly harder needle to thread.
Very interesting. Thank you very much indeed.